Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on the part of the world you are calling in from. Thank you for attending our webinar on how to connect with and engage the complex network of your stakeholders. We are really excited to have such a diverse audience. My name is Zuzana, and I will be your host throughout the event. Fortunately, Ron Byron will not be able to join us today due to unforeseen events, so instead we will have our CEO, Peter Ruppert, take his place alongside Senior Analyst Borbala Toth. Peter is the CEO and one of the co-founders of Maven 7, the company behind Diktio Labs Life Sciences. He has over 10 years of experience in network analysis and has personally managed various sales optimization projects for top big pharma companies such as Novartis, GE Healthcare, and more. And Borbala, as our senior analyst, is a data scientist specialized in mining and analyzing social media data. She has led and delivered numerous healthcare-focused big data analytics and pharmaceutical patient opinion leader mapping and key opinion leader mapping projects. The webinar itself will take approximately 60 minutes. We will be recording the event, so it will be sent out to you afterwards. And of course, we also want to keep it as interactive as possible. So should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them in the chat section or by clicking the raise your hand icon. And of course, we will have a Q&A session at the very end where all questions will be answered publicly. So I say let's get started. Peter, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. This is Peter Ruppert. As Juja mentioned, I am a co-founder and currently the CEO for the US operations with Maven 7. And first of all, we would like to ask a question from you. So before we jump into the topic, we wanted to understand your opinion about, which stakeholder groups would you consider your key target audience or your main focus? Is it more patients, more the caregivers, more hospital, governments, or more the healthcare agencies? And it's very easy to answer. Just click on any of the buttons. You have several options to include here, and that would be very helpful for us to see your key interests. Yeah, we have currently 80% voted so far. So just a second, and we will get to the results in a second. Yeah, and it's 90% now, and as we can see, the key focus are payers in this sense, and that's almost 60%. And the other 44%, the second on the list, are caregivers, whereas patients and health agencies and hospitals are less on the radar for current audience. This is pretty interesting to see, and we usually have a very common situation and very typical situation where we help companies to understand that the best way to approach any of the audiences are throughout influencers. This is where we focus at, and or better and broader, and or what we think about communities and targeting these communities is that the holy grail behind targeting efforts are to select influencers and to understand the underlying social structure of any given audience. And this way, network science and social network analytics, where Maven 7 is one of the market leaders currently, we help companies to understand their audiences in a form you can look and you can see on the chart now. This is a community. This is how it's structured, and you can easily identify the top influencers within this community. You can see the structures, you can see the small clusters, and if you have this map, it's very easy to navigate throughout the whole process throughout the influencers and have the biggest impact on this community. So this was a very simple start in the whole presentation, and further on the line, Borbala will show you some case studies where we visualize communities and the whole approach. And it's all about engagement. You know, how do I connect? How do I understand the complex network of my stakeholders? And how do I get into the channel? And this is where we think these influencers are super important, and we have to work with maps and understand the structure behind any given community. So before we jump into further details, let me ask you another question. And this is, what is your preferred way of connecting with your stakeholders? Is it more face-to-face? Is it more digital communication, e-detailing? Is it a combination of two? Are multi-channel approach more on your table and on your focus, or do you do more congresses and seminars? So we have currently 75% voted already, and yeah, I'm super happy to see that the multi-channel approach is top rated here. So this is exactly what we can see as a major trend in working with pharmaceutical clients, that multi-channel is replacing basically the approach of channeling face-to-face meetings and driving conversation throughout the various channels. So we totally agree with this approach, and this is exactly our aim with Diktio Labs as well. That engagement is efficient if it's happening in several different channels at the same time. This is why we work with network from pharmaceuticals for physicians, caregivers, patients, and we have the capability to understand all of the underlying social networks and understand how we can engage in this multidimensional network setup by driving the conversation, seeing the mind maps of the participants, and rather than going out and targeting with one simple message, one specific target group, to have a multi-channel approach. Why is it more efficient is always a good question, but we can feel that you know, the whole communication cycle has to be built up around future engagement opportunities, and it has to be transparent and meaningful information happening throughout the channels with a very good and important message towards collaboration and opportunities there. If you can demonstrate these informations, if you have the capabilities to understand the structure in your networks and can drive this information throughout the influencers, then this is truly a powerful way to engage the audience and better allow them to better contribute to the wellness of your patients and the general public, and improve. And this is what we usually see once we deliver the maps and understand and define the go-to-market strategy, that it's a highly efficient way to improve operational efficiency and healthcare actions. So this is, in a nutshell, the overall view about our suggested communication model. Rather than to go out there and focus on one specific one, we always align communication and sales activities around sales, medical research community, regulatory expert, and drive the network research components in all of this various group to understand the social structures and the key influencers within. This is the shift from a rather org chart related view to a network related view, where you can understand the links and the connections, which have true meanings throughout the whole process. How you can imagine the whole thing fits into a process is that rather than targeting traditional monitoring technologies where one size fits all, we always rely on a custom-based and conversational-based approach. We always have to understand your aims and your future actions to be prepared for a custom-made process and reports. And this is, I think, one of the key components which differentiates us from traditional monitoring activities. Also, we are much more focused around pre-campaign intelligence. So before you even go out there, before your sales reps, before your marketing or PR folks go out there, we are capable to understand and visualize, the audience, who are the key players within these audience groups and stakeholder groups, and what drives the discussions within the audience groups. And this is a map to navigate on. This is a database where you can use in your CRM system to fully understand the total landscape and to go out there and drive the messages based on the information collected before the whole campaign happening, rather than what traditional monitoring agencies do, the post-campaign approach, where we collect all the feedback coming from the various discussions. We are not perfectly volume-based. It's not only about the likes and shares and retweets. We have a definite understanding about how do we influence each other and how do we trust each other. And this is an exercise in which we consider data sets as a huge mirror about ourselves, about social communities, and we transfer these data sets into meaningful insights and charts visualizing the connections between individuals, which allows us to see not only who has 100 followers and list all the target audience participants based on the number of followers, but we can understand the followers of the followers. So if somebody has only 2 followers, he can be more influential than somebody with 100 followers if he is on the middle of the network, if he has the strongest ties to key influencers, and his message got repeated and retweeted in several ways. So it's a different approach. It's based on a data collection part, which happens at the beginning of the whole process, after a consultancy-based approach, by sitting down with the client, understanding the key objectives, and preparing the keyword list we have to use during the campaigns. And throughout this exercise, you have the capability to build up the whole network, to create the whole map, and then pinpoint and identify the influencers, rather than only collect the volume-based data happening within these discussions. And let me just stop here and hand over to Borbala. She's an expert or data scientist, and she will guide you through a case study in which we show you how it exactly looks and feels once you create an output.
Thank you, Peter, for introducing the concept. Hello, everyone. I'm Borbala. I have been working for over 2 years for Maven 7, doing network science on a daily basis. Basically, in this part of the presentation, I would like to show you in general how we proceed. How does research look like when it's live, and what kind of results you may get out of the research. So basically, we can mine any kind of online available data, but that is preceded by finding out what the client exactly would like to find out. What is the main question? Is it, like Peter said, a pre-campaign in analysis of the market? Does the client want to introduce a new treatment to the market and would like to see all the competitors, or does it have a new treatment and would like to introduce it to the doctors on the market? So is it the patients being targeted, or is it the physicians being targeted, or is it both? So upon finalizing and having answered these questions, which is obviously based on a consultancy, more like a consultancy with the client, so we clarify what is the main question. We make basically a tailor-made analysis, basically the process of the analysis. The first part, the most important, is, like I said, finalizing the question and having in mind what is the main question the client has, and then we start the data mining. We build up the database. We do clean the data if it's necessary, and upon finalizing the data analysis, we do deliver the our results with easy to interpret visualizations with consultancy to the client, and listing all the recommendations we have based on the findings we find at the same time. In the next part, I'm going to show you basically what we have done for a client who wanted to see the cardiology community and the doctors in the Czech Republic. And we have used two data sources. One was the PubMed, which is the medical publications collection available online, and the CRM database we have merged with the two data sets. So on this network, you see the community of cardiology physicians in the Czech Republic based on how often and with whom do they publish an article together. So the edges between the nodes are the authors themselves, the physicians, and whether two nodes are connected, it means that they had the publication authored together, and the thicker the edge, it shows that they had more publications together. The size of the label and the node indicates how many publications the given author had. As you can see immediately that using network science, we could detect the KOS or the key opinion leaders in this community, and they are the ones who are the most important, probably professors at the given universities, and they are well acknowledged KOLs. We tend to seek for rising stars who are closely associated with the KOLs we find, but they are the ones who are the future KOLs in 5, 10, or 15 years. They will be the one who could be targeted at any kind of activity serving the needs of the clients. Also, we see on this network that there were some authors not well connected to the main cluster of the network, like on the upper right corner of it. As you can see, they don't really have connections to the main cluster. They are somewhat isolated authors. Over there as well in the left, lower left part of the network, you see some authors in hub position connecting various clusters of the main part of the network. If we go to the next slide, what you will see that we can find the data for these authors indicating where they are, what kind of university, institute, hospital they are affiliated with. It's not surprising. I mean, inherently you would say so, that people being at the same city, same university tend to publish more together. And this network highlights that basically Praha is one of the most important institutes and hubs in the community, apart from Brno and Hradec Králové. I don't know if we have Czech persons in the audience. Sorry for the pronunciation. I'm really bad. My Czech is. So basically, having these data from PubMed and CRM also reveals this kind of combinations. But if we go to the next slide, we will see an additional data from the CRM system. So basically, we have indicated the mostly visited doctors. And what we see here that we still have in red the key influencers we have found, the rising stars, and the mostly visited doctors. And what we can see that eventually they do not coincide. As you can see, these isolated authors not connected to the network, they are also kind of visited quite often, as the node size indicates. And our KOLs are the least visited ones. So if the client wanted to raise the awareness of its product among the Czech cardiologist community, then they are on the wrong goal. And what they should do is rethink their strategy, and instead of visiting the ones who are not connected to the main clusters, but the ones who are. So instead of doing this, they should reallocate the resources looking for the opportunities and finding the KOLs and the rising stars instead of the most visited physicians. And obviously, the most important parts are the hubs in the community. So why are these hubs? Why are these influencers? They have the better chance to reach the largest bits of the community itself. And as we can see that the most visited physicians are not well connected to these hubs, so instead of them, one should turn to the KOLs. Let me turn to the KOL profile we usually provide if it's needed. So basically, upon analyzing an area, we tend to come up with a list of an X number of most important people in the area, and we prepare profiles of them. These profiles indicate the ranking of KOLs. So if we have, for instance, 30, 40, 50, where they are, then we indicated the region where they are based at, what kind of field they covered. Now, this person, Dr. Clifton O'Bingham, is related to rheumatoid arthritis, and he is working as a director at Johns Hopkins Arthritis Center. Apart from the contact info, in this same, this is a sample profile. In the profile, we indicate that what kind of affiliations they have, where they work, do they have any kind of a position in an editorial board, what were their latest publications, whatever which could be considered as information apart from what we can get out of the network. So the network positions as well, the research abstracts, their specialties, short summary of what they were doing, and also probably a list of similar KOLs. So apart from the study we deliver after a research, this is also part of the deliveries and the network serving as the science behind them. And also we have an ego network usually connected to the KOL profiles on having the information how these KOLs can be approached. So the client can see that, oh, I don't know this guy personally, but I know that guy who has been publishing or has been to a conference with him, whatever, depending on what kind of database we have been working at. So you know how to contact him and go to him and how to get yourself introduced to you. Apart from the publication data, we can also use other resources, like in this case, the CRM database, but also conferences, institutions, editorial boards, or other information coming from the industry, practice information, and so on, depending on really the question we would like to answer. And we are also, and of course, the clinical trials and other grants or patient patent resources as well. And if it's necessary, we are also happy to do interviews with the KOLs themselves to get them to know better in case the client doesn't feel like approaching them directly. I think this is what I wanted to tell you about it. Would you like, Peter, to summarize what we have seen so far?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think we have seen an excellent case study in which we were able to show the client how to reallocate resources. What are the key focus areas in that specific community. By only using 2 data sets, we only limited ourselves to see scientific cooperations, but we could also see how the current CRM system feeds the information regarding which doctors, which medical experts were targeted in this community. We usually see that there is a huge shift once we create the map, once we understand the underlying social interactions and social ties in any given community, that you can reallocate the same resources to reach the same community with less than 2 handshakes. And that's usually a growth from 25 to 50% of resource allocation, and you will have the capability to not to visit more or to visit other candidates, but to target directly the key influencers in any specific community. I think that's one of the key learnings. If we have a map, if we understand the structure, then we can easily navigate. It's not only about the know-how, but also the know-whom. We understand what is happening in the networks. We understand the current topics discussed in the network and presented on conferences and published in research papers. So it's not only about who should I reach out to, but what are the key messages, what are the key campaign words to use to drive the discussion. We can create and identify the influencers who are, in some of the cases, not the most important persons on the market, who are overrated and mostly used by several pharmaceutical players. But just as Boris mentioned, the hubs, who are connectors between small clusters and communities, and this is a very important part of our research that we always concentrate to the most influential and highly embedded community members in any given research. I think it's very important that the revealing of the positions within networks are translated into scores. So at the end of the research, not only networks and profiles, but it's basically a database which we provide, which allows customers to understand, how to scale and how to understand the total picture, the total universe of any given audience, and this can be then fed into CRM systems, and it can work from patients to medical experts on every given stakeholder community. Well, thank you very much for listening, and I think this is time for questions.
Yes, indeed. So I encourage you all to please send your questions right now if you haven't already. I have only a few so far. I also wanted to mention, just to give you enough time to send your questions now, that Borbala will be present in person at the i4Pharma event in Barcelona. If any of you guys will be there, then you will be able to find her the week after next. So I have a question from David. It goes, can you share another example besides KOL mapping the network approach will be able to solve in the pharma sector?
Yeah, so I think one of the latest trends we see now is that patients, before they visit doctors, they tend to self-diagnose themselves. So type into Google and search for the disease they think they have, and immediately they are faced not only with links and suggestions, but also with a community. And this is a patient community discussions around the topics. And we also see that there is a huge trend of self-proclaimed patient opinion leaders, who are most of the case not even patients. They are relative to the patients. They are sometimes not doctors. They are sometimes not experts, but they are the loudest one in any given community. So this is, for example, a very good case study which we can talk about. That it's a very hot topic currently to go out there, look for discussions, look for online audiences who really help traffic to hospitals and medical experts, and trying to define the discussions around any given topic. We just happened to be closed a study around asthma, and it was amazing to see what was the universe the patients discussed this topic, and what were the treatment options mentioned together, which was not only focused on pharma-related solutions. So it was opening up a whole lot of different discussion and topic information to our client, which allowed them to better understand what is currently being discussed around this specific disease.
Mm-hmm. Andreas is asking, how do you deal with scientific areas that are just building up, where there are where KOLs do not exist yet?
Well, that's certainly a very interesting topic. We had several issues in which we saw scientific communities transforming. For example, there was a huge research study we did in Russia where we had to specifically look for a sub-disease coming from schizophrenia. And in schizophrenia, you have now small teams working together and putting together the diagnosis. There were at least three different medical experts involved, and we had to see the small triangles in the whole community. On the other hand, we had to understand, who is just working on schizophrenia and who was involved in that specific sub treatment area. So it's doable. I'm not sure, how big is the new community, but we can see trends, we can see connections. We have done, for example, a research in diabetes, where we had to combine that diabetes 1 and diabetes 2 related audiences. And it's always good to see how people merge, or how communities connect in these audiences, and to understand, how is, for example, a community raising and building up. We also rely on, there is a co-founder, Maven 7, who is a professor at Northeastern University in Boston. His lab is called Borbala Lab. His name is Albert Laszlo Borbala. He's one of the world famous network research guys in Boston. And they are working for the last 3 years on a scientific approach, which is around measuring the science of success. So it allows us, and it developed an algorithm which allows us to be capable to early detect somebody's success and calculate and predict a career path for any given candidate in coming from for example, from a scientific community. So burning and or communities under creation are something we can work with. And also seeing future rising stars, I think that's one of the capabilities we can bring to the table.
And I have one more question from Beatrix. It's, do you give specific recommendations on what to do with the results of a KOL mapping analysis, how to engage and involve those identified influencers?
Yes, we do. I think the most important part, and this is what I can tell you right away, that the most important thing we know about key opinion leaders is that they want to be loud, they want to be heard. So the easiest way to engage most of them is by asking them their motivation, their interest, and we also help clients not only to figure out the strategy, how is the best way to engage, but throughout, just the exercise, just the case study you have seen, coming from the CRM database, we can build out, micro or ego networks, as Borbala described. And this way, you can identify who do you already know who has the capability to introduce you to that specific key opinion leader. So it's path-based of communication, path-based of connections. How do I make sure that I can reach this guy? And also it's engagement and strategy of what are the topics, what are the words to be used, and what are the words which would be a no-go in reaching out to any of the listed key opinion leaders. You can rely on our recommendations, and we usually work together with clients on building out these strategies.
And even when the community is not that big, because for instance we are talking about a disease which fortunately tackles only a small minority within the population, we have been analyzing one of these online on forums and blogs, and we have found that not many people were dealing with it, though what they were selling was dump, basically. So what we have suggested to the client that they should prepare a website, a static one, and pay Google ads to whenever someone is looking for this disease, the website they have made, which would be an informative website, obviously explaining about this disease, what are the possibilities. This is not a little one, obviously, it's just a chronic situation. So this is how they should kind of rule the discussion about the disease online. So these kind of suggestions, yes, we do.
Okay. It seems we have no more questions for today. So once again, thank you all for participating at the webinar. As promised, we will send you a follow-up email with the recording and the key learning points. And we would love for you to connect with us on social media as well, if you're on Twitter, on Facebook, or LinkedIn. and definitely connect with you in person or at another webinar again soon. So thank you everyone for being here with us, and see you all soon.